accounts. In the East African outlook, LRA victims plead for Uganda government to honor compensation promises. In business, Uganda to borrow more for infrastructure projects. In markets, which way for Uganda government securities? In the magazine, Honorable Ziwa takes up top ELA post and a lot more exciting news and stories in the magazine. Get a head start to the week ahead. Buy yourself a copy of the region's most authoritative business paper from your nearest vendor or supermarket. Now out on Saturday. The East African, understanding the region.
Radio 1. Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Spectrum wants to hear your views. You can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome, this is Spectrum Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, what next for Dr. Zac Niringiye after retiring from the pulpit? Yesterday, Dr. Zac Niringiye bid farewell to his parishioners at the All Saints Cathedral, Nakasero, after choosing to retire as Assistant Bishop of Kampala Diocese 7 years before his due retirement, as per the canons of the Anglican Church of Uganda. Dr. Niringiye, who was consecrated as Assistant Kampala Bishop in January 2005 at the age of 51, has retired at 58, yet bishops in the Church of Uganda are supposed to retire at 65. Many are still wondering what could have prompted him into early retirement. But others are asking the question, what is he going to do next, considering his recent activism that was aimed at promoting the rule of law, good governance and social justice. It is this activism that many say has led into a collision course with President Museveni. And many says he has a lot of respect for and a lot of pride in given the big contributions he has made to this country. Dr. Niringiye's activism is partly one of the reasons that a sharp debate over the role of religious leaders in Ugandan politics has raged on recently. Currently, he's part of the initiative to restore presidential term limits before the country marks 50 years of independence. In his last sermon as Assistant Bishop of Kampala, he re-echoed his advice to President Museveni to retire and make history as the first Ugandan leader to leave power peacefully. President Museveni recently advised Dr. Niringiye to stick to religious affairs, stressing that Dr. Niringiye, cannot teach him about politics. Besides his pastoral duties, Dr. Niringiye has headed the Ugandan chapter of the African Peer Review Mechanism, which assesses the performance of African heads of state. So tonight on Spectrum, we ask what has prompted Dr. Niringiye into early retirement, and where exactly is he headed for? What are his concerns about governance in this country as we prepare to mark 50 years of independence? Also, will he consider joining active politics to help address some of these concerns, if God wants him to do that? And what role he actually expects the Church of Uganda under their new Archbishop to play in shaping the destiny of this country? So these are the questions we'll be looking at and other issues as we host Dr. Zac Niringiye, retired Assistant Bishop of Kampala Diocese. You're most welcome, Dr. Zac.
Thank you, Edmond.
Doctor, why did you choose to go for an early retirement?
That's a long question, actually. It is a story of my life. My life is informed by a desire to follow my heart, to follow my sense of where God is calling me. That's my life. So the short answer is, I just sensed from my vocation, my following Jesus, that it was time to move on to the next assignment that the Lord is giving me. Now that sounds very up there, spiritual and so on. But actually, that's the bottom line. I am a follower of Jesus. And since I was 18, I have been very, very conscious that my life only counts to the extent that I'm doing that which I have a sense is God calling me to. Let me just say this quickly. How this is, it's actually very important for me, and for those who speak to me, who want to understand me, to understand it. At the age of 18, when I recommitted my life to Jesus Christ, that very year, I had this sense within me, wondering what it is that God required of my life. At HSC, I was in senior 3 then. HSC, I pursued maths, physics, and chemistry. And at that point, I thought in senior 5, what is it that I would like to do at university? And as early as senior 5, it became clear to me that my course of life would not be engineering. And it didn't matter what grades I received. And I was one of the top students in Tare during my senior 6. I didn't do engineering because I didn't sense this is the path of God for me. I went for a Bachelor of Science and graduated with a physics degree. I came back to Makerere as a graduate fellow, pursuing a master's in physics, and so I was on a path, a vocational path of teaching physics at the university. Just towards the end of my coursework, finishing my coursework, I mean, I struggled again, asking the question, Lord, what is it that you want with my life? And that really is the question constantly of my life. And it dawned on me that really the course for my life was not to teach physics. I quit working on a master's in physics and started an amazing life teaching, preaching, going around the campuses, working with an organization called Fellowship of Christian Unions. Focus, which I did in Uganda for 12 years. And during that time, I was invited to lead the work in Africa. I crisscrossed the continent from Eritrea to Mozambique, Sierra Leone, Gambia, all over. And the point is, it's the sense, what does God require of my life? It's really, that's what has guided my, and of course, I have to engage with my family, but I also check where have I come from? So very specifically, looking at where I am now, actually looking back, I'm amazed. My PhD research, when I did a doctorate, Edinburgh University, my study, very interestingly, without knowing, I did a study on turbulence, Uganda's turbulent history, and the role of mission history and theology, and I was studying history. And it's really the political history of Uganda, particularly focusing on turbulence, and trying to ask, where is the church? What is the church? What is the church becoming? And, you know, beginning from the very beginning of the coming of Christianity in Uganda. That, as I've been looking back, I'm amazed. Secondly, as regional director of Church Mission Society, we were one of the first organizations to start a campaign called Break the Silence Campaign on Northern Uganda. And I do still recall, as regional director, I was able to organize for bishops of the Church of Uganda then, 2002, to actually make a visit to Northern Uganda during those very, very difficult times. And visiting, I think that was my first time to be able to visit Pabo Camp. Then it had about 62,000 people in this, I think it was the largest camp. And, you know, so that experience, then when I became a bishop, 2005, the first plenary session of the Uganda Joint Christian Council, the plenary session appointed me to chair the National Task Force of UJCC, focusing on northern Uganda, and really working for a peaceful process to end that conflict. And that experience again taught me so much about Uganda, what happens and doesn't happen. But during the same time, actually around the same time, UJCC, Uganda Joint Christian Council, nominated me to go on the National Commission for the African Peer Review Mechanism. And again, I mean, the commission members elected me to be their vice chair. And that responsibility, again, taught me so much about governance in Uganda. And by the way, let me correct this. The Africa peer review mechanism process does not review presidents, heads of state. It actually, it's a governance review process indeed, a peer review, not just of the president, but actually of the countries. And it focuses on all the areas of governance. And so it actually reviews what's the role of civil society, certainly government, what's government doing or not doing, certainly the different arms of government, the executive, the legislature, the judiciary. So it's a very comprehensive review process. And as vice chair of the commission, I was actually in charge of the program itself, was my assignment. And again, learning so much. Subsequently, the successor mechanism was a national governing council, and I was appointed to be part of that, and then the members elected me to be their chair, and I've done this over the last 3.5 years. Again, that itself has taught me so much. I have gotten to understand what happens and doesn't happen, and more recently, being asked by the Interreligious Council of Uganda to chair the National Task Force for Peace and Conflict Transformation during the concluded elections of last year. And again, really engaging with electoral processes, engaging with the elections itself. Again, learning so much. Now, through that journey, I'm reading the Bible. I've been reading the Bible, most of my life. But it is really over the last 15 years that this theme of justice that's at the very heart of the Bible message.
Yes.
Old Testament, New Testament, Jesus, Moses, every one of them, justice.
Right.
And then you read the prophets, it's all about justice. And so really amazing stuff reading, and therefore realizing that the gospel that I preach, the gospel I am committed to, the gospel that shapes my life, my calling, my entire being, that shapes my hope of the future, heaven and everything, actually it's grounded in justice. Reading Matthew chapter 12, Jesus has been revealed, was revealed to bring justice to victory. So am I changing? Am I shifting? No, it's the same gospel.
Right.
But realizing that on this path of following Jesus, seasons of assignment, and as I look back to my life, there have been seasons when I'm assigned. I have a sense of this is your assignment now. So I am definitely been very clear over the last 2-3 years that my service as a bishop was coming to an end. I have finished God's assignment as I understand it. Have I finished the work? Of course not. Have I? No. Do I have this sense I have finished my assignment as a bishop? Yes, absolutely. What am I moving forward to? It's the same gospel. The emphasis is different.
All right.
Certainly moving on.
All right.
It's justice, it's good governance, it's the things that matter about the daily life of the people in Uganda, in this region, on this continent that I have traversed over the last 20 years.
Listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, what next for Bishop Dr. Zac Niringiye? After retiring from the pulpit, we're hosting the man himself. Some have likened him to Bishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa. What do you plan to do next?
Before asking what do I plan to do next, what am I doing? Because it's not jump from this to there, no. As I have said, over the last 3 years, I have had greater involvement in the work of advocacy for justice, for good governance. Through those initiatives and those platforms. Certainly I engaged on those platforms sent by religious institutions, Uganda Joint Christian Council, Interreligious Council of Uganda, and the Church of Uganda. I have chaired the Peace and Social Justice Commission of the Church of Uganda, and certainly within the foreseeable short term, medium term, I do trust that I will continue to engage through these platforms. I am on the Peace, Justice and Good Governance Committee of the Interreligious Council of Uganda. I am on the Good Governance Committee of UJCC. So I do hope that I can continue to engage because I am a retired bishop. I am still a bishop, and in that sense will remain for as long as I have a sense that that's what the Lord really wants me to be serving us. So that's one. There is a continuation that I can see.
All right.
I have an appointment as a visiting fellow at Makerere University in the Human Rights and Peace Center. I do hope to engage, therefore, in academia on these issues in a way to really build. I mean, the university is a center that should be engaging, shaping discourse on these issues. I want to participate. I want to learn. I want to be able to be part of that civil society, academia, but find a way in which there is the interface. So I'm going to be visiting there for 1 year in the Human Rights and Peace Center to examine religion, rights and peace, the connections, the disconnects. I'm engaged with various civil society organizations, so no doubt that my specific platform is civil society. It's engaging in definitely issues of justice, social justice, good governance. So yes, that is what I am passionate about. I am very passionate, and I'm working already with many others who are passionate about good quality education. So we have a quality education campaign. Our education can get better. Healthcare, I am engaged with young people to deal with issues of youth unemployment. It's massive. So really, broad speaking, issues of justice and good governance. Narrowly, there will be specific themes that I'm very passionate for. Education, healthcare, youth, say it again, you know.
Right.
Certainly, the processes, key reforms, key governance, political governance reforms that are critical for peace of this country. You certainly did make reference to my participation with others on restoring term limits within our constitution. That's important.
All right.
You know, encouraging our president to be the first to retire honorably, absolutely, with all love and respect. So all these is really what I hope I am doing, will continue to do, will engage in.
Well, you become a thorn in the side of many politicians. Why are you pressured to leave?
Say that again?
Well, some people think you become a thorn in the side of certain politicians. Why?
I really have no intentions of being a thorn.
Well, you
my intention in life is to be a blessing. So I really, my hope, my dream, my desire is to bring hope, to communicate grace, love, not judgment, not, oh God, here he comes again. No, because you know, I am a sinner saved by God's grace. That's who I am. I point people to that which I myself must look to. God's grace, God's love, His forgiveness, His mercy. That's what the gospel is about. But it's also about justice. It's that those who are on the margins of our society. Today, the story on the online New Vision is Kampala is flooded. Who pay the biggest brunt? It's not those of us who have to wade through the traffic.
I saw a man yesterday as I came from listening to your sermon. She was lying on the pavement, soaked in rainwater. I didn't want to imagine what he had gone through the night, but he was there.
Absolutely, and let's not even discuss whether he was drunk or not. I mean, people get drunk, they get into their cars and drive.
Right.
But the poor get drunk, and where do they live? So, Kalerwe, those really are the people on the margins. Look, Uganda is a child country. about 50%, around 50% at 15 years.
15, yes.
Under 15. Yes. It's a statistic given to us by the Bureau of Statistics. Yes. So we are a child nation. Yes. So we are a nation of defenseless people. Children must be nurtured.
Right.
And so it's those concerns that really occupy me. And I hope, therefore, it's about hope. It's not about judgment. And I really hope that politicians, religious leaders see me not as an enemy or in anything, but really as an ally, somebody who is in the same direction with those who seek justice. I recognize that those who have a different agenda, I recognize that, or those who have benefited from corrupt processes,
right,
might find me a bit, but please, it's not me. It's really not me. It's not me. It's not about me, by the way.
It's about the principles of life.
Absolutely. It's about doing right.
Timeless principles. Dr. Zac, talk to us about what you think ails Uganda's politics.
I think, first of all, we have a history. We have a history that is challenging history. We have a history of when the NRM came in 27 years ago. They are right on that we had a history of sectarianism that was of a religious kind, of a regional kind, country divided along regions, tribal, regions and then tribes, and that is true, and that previous leadership exacerbated those divisions, whether in with the religious groupings or tribal or regions. So that history, no question, that itself is embedded in the history of colonialism and on and on. However, we also look at other nations that have similar histories and have made the leap. They've changed, they've transformed. My argument is that the primary challenge Uganda has faced is leadership. Its leadership is that we have had we've had leaders who've brought hope.
Our leaders don't stay too long. Maybe that's a problem. They don't stay long enough to effect change. Is that
no. You know, when I think about leadership, both from my reading of scripture, from my reading of history, from my reading what makes for good leaders, what is it that in our history those who really come and make a positive impact. The first thing is people who have character. This humility is crucial. Humility, the sense that you're not the one and only one. You are one among others. You are part of a team. You are a team leader, depending on what teams you lead. Character. People have certain convictions about people, about life.
About values there.
Values, absolutely. Values. People have courage to move on with the things that they believe are right. You're not just checking who is thinking what. You are able to courageously do what is right and consistently. In other words, commitment. And the other is competence. So I think that if you do check our history, no doubt, with challenges in terms of leadership. There is no question, and I've studied this, and you don't have to have done a PhD in this to know it, that our turbulent history, no doubt, Uganda has a history of blood.
Yes.
We've killed one another.
Yes.
We've killed one another. And we blame it on each other, and we are right. And that's what I say. Now that we know we've killed each other, it's time for us to sit together and say, hey guys, we've killed each other, we must stop it. How do we do that? So I am very, very passionate that this country needs a process of national reconciliation. National reconciliation. But it must be led by us, the leaders, wherever we are. The other point I therefore wanted to make is there is no doubt that as a country we have struggled with presidents. No doubt. If you check our history, we've struggled. I mean, I'm not the first to remark that every time a president moves on,
we've never had a peaceful transfer of
absolutely
power. That's a
absolutely
matter of fact.
And
we don't have a
not
living
just that, actually. Well, the living head, they could have died for all sorts of reasons even elsewhere. But the point is this, remember this, every time a president leaves power, he goes into exile.
Yes.
Do you remember NF for whom that isn't the case? Or was put in prison or something like that. So there is no doubt that as a country
we need a precedent.
We have to deal with the idea that we don't seem to manage well as a country this highest office, and certainly the onus is especially on the holders of that office. So there is no doubt.
The ones who enjoy the sirens.
Well, I'm not going to talk about what they enjoy or don't enjoy, because I'm sure they're going also to tell us, and they're right, about the sacrifices that they make. So it's not about enjoyment, it's about responsibility. And I think we need to emphasize responsibility. Again, we're a country that emphasizes too much about eating. No, let's talk responsibility. So there is no doubt, for example, that you can certainly talk about the Obote factor in our politics.
Yes.
No doubt.
He ruled twice.
Definitely you can speak about the Amin factor in our politics.
Yes.
You can therefore talk about Oboteism.
Yes.
You can talk about Aminism.
Yes.
No doubt. And by the way...
You want to stop there?
And by the way, no, I won't stop there. By the way, we still suffer the consequences of that.
The ripple effect
Obotism,
still affects us.
Aminism,
right.
And then, no doubt, Musevenism.
Right.
There is no doubt. So I think that we really need to be able to deal with the fact that we have had leadership challenges, and these have also had these have to do with the highest office, no doubt, as well as other offices, no doubt as well.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1. We're hosting Dr. Zac Niringiye, Bishop, retired Assistant Bishop of Kampala Diocese, very influential parish at the All Saints Cathedral, right across the road from Status. So go for a break. We'll be back, but stay tuned.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
When Junior lost his appetite, his mother tried all methods to get him to eat. She tried scary stories.
Eat, Tommy, eat, or the big black elephant will come and eat all your food.
She tried magic.
Tommy, if you eat your food, I will turn this handkerchief into sweets. Look, bumble, bumble, boom, boom.
Then she discovered Apetol multivitamin syrup with lysine.
Mommy, I finished all the food. I am number 1.
Apetol multivitamin with lysine is helping mothers to turn mealtime frustration to a fun moment. Apetol has a great taste and contains lysine, which quickly improves your child's appetite and supports healthy growth. Apetol, help for life.
Join Airtel today and get 50% bonus airtime instantly. That's right, 50% bonus airtime to call across all networks. Simply buy and register a new Airtel SIM card. Top up 1,000 shillings and more, and 50% bonus airtime to call across all networks is yours. Join Airtel today. Get bonus today.
Airtel.
John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. What next for Dr. Zac Niringiye after retiring from the pulpit? Our guest is, well, the eponymous Dr. Zac Niringiye, retired Assistant Bishop of Kampala Diocese. You will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion and talk to him direct. I'll read out the numbers when that time comes. Dr. Zac, is longevity not good for stability?
What do you mean by longevity?
Well, staying 40 years maybe, you hold the country stable. In the past, we've had the high turnover of heads of inflation of heads of state.
Edmond, you're trying
24
to
years, 8 heads of state.
Excuse me. Just do a study on the continent of Africa and answer that question yourself. Is longevity the recipe for stability? Just check. Can we begin?
Go on.
Okay. We won't start from the north because that's kind of dicey. We start from the south. Right?
Yes. Robert Mugabe since 1980.
Thank you very much.
Years only.
Thank you very much.
Still strong, 89, and still with a spring in his step.
Okay. Stability. Zimbabwe, one of the most stable countries in Africa. Okay. Now move to Malawi. How long did Kamuzu Banda stay? How did the transition, how did that whole thing work? I mean, you could go on. By the way,
very stable.
No, excuse me. By the way, let's not now even get there. I met Mwalimu Julius Nyerere.
Yes.
There must be early 90s. He had come to give us a lecture at Edinburgh University. And we said to him, Mzee, you did us proud as Africans. You ceded power willingly, and you know you were able to cede power, to retire honorably, to be able to say. And you know what he said to us? We were enthusiastic students in the School of African Studies. He had come to give us a lecture. He said, "Don't congratulate me. I overstayed."
That's what he said.
Yes, yes,
from 1963.
yes. He said I overstayed. You can't congratulate me for having done well after staying for 23 years. And he was very, very honest that he overstayed. That if he knew what he knew at the time he was lecturing to us, he certainly would have left earlier. Why? He did recognize that the Ujamaa project was excellent, but it reached a point at which it really needed a different angle, a different leadership. So it's not just Bishop Zac, you know, the more contemporary.
It's a principle.
Who acknowledge this? It's everyone.
Right.
Now, the president himself said it. He's given a twist to it more recently when he said,
in 1986,
yes,
the problem with African leaders, they stay too long.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So he's put a twist to it more recently. Let's engage with him.
He says those who stay without being voted.
I know, but clearly that's not, he could have, the point is, it is agreed. By the way, you can go to Europe. It's not just Africa.
Yes.
Go anywhere in the world, anywhere. But that's not all. That's not all. We do have leaders who stayed long. Singapore, Malaysia, absolutely. And those countries, yes. The leadership now I need to remember my years, but both in Singapore and Malaysia, you had Prime Minister in Malaysia who stayed quite a long time, and Singapore. The difference with them, it seems to me, there's something about them that is unlike the others we can talk about. But when it was time to move, again, they ceded power willingly. Right. They offered to step down. So there is a sense in which once you've stayed long, the other way is how you move on. It seems elections are not very effective in managing that. If elections happen...
What do you mean? We've had elections here and the winner, gets into state.
Well, my dear brother and friend,
on a regular basis.
You are a Ugandan. You are a Ugandan. You really know what happens towards elections?
What happens?
Oh my goodness. The deployment of security all over, the deployment of money, oh my goodness.
Financial violence.
Thank you. Unbelievable amounts. So the way elections work in this country, and everybody admits this, whether it's primaries or any stage. So let's also be honest. We're making progress, no doubt, but we're still a long way away. The amount of money, the use of security agencies, the gerrymandering of constituencies, and so on. We've made some progress. So elections by themselves, don't do it. There must be a cultivation of a certain culture. And who creates culture? It's leadership. It's leaders. I always say, by the way, it is not fair, it is not right that leaders stand up and say, Ugandans are corrupt. The problem is Ugandans are corrupt. We have a corrupt society because Ugandans are corrupt. You can't blame society for its culture.
Yes.
Who creates culture? It's leadership.
Leaders.
It's leadership.
Yes.
Leaders must take responsibility for the environment they create, for the culture that they create. Leaders create the culture of institutions.
Yes.
Find an institution that is operating well, whose systems, procedures, processes work. I can tell you, it's leadership. And especially for us, for whom the institutions are still in their nascent stages, we're still building them. Look, all of them. So all our institutions depend on good quality leadership for them to grow. So yes, there is certainly an amount of time that needs to be given. I can give you an example. As a bishop in Kampala Diocese, we did agree that if you post a clergyman to be the team leader in a parish as a vicar, a priest in charge of a parish,
yes,
we did agree with Archbishop Henry that it would not be fair in normal circumstances for you to transfer a priest, a vicar,
yes,
before 5 years, because surely before 5 years he hasn't done much.
Right.
But you know what, we also agreed that after 10 years, that up to 10 years, good enough, maximum,
they have to move.
Yes, because after 10 years, you don't want the institution to look like you. You don't want. That is why in the Church of Uganda there is a term limit. 10 years. Yes, 10 years.
That's why you want to bring them to.
No. It's not why I want to bring them. They were there. They were removed. It's not me who's bringing them. Please don't give me credit that I don't deserve. You know, they are all over. No, 10 years. And the reason is, when you come at the helm of the Church of Uganda leadership, if you don't do anything in 10 years, we know you just move on.
Even 100 years, you won't do much.
So this idea that yes, you need a good time, a length of period, and I think that is why, in the wisdom of any of these governments,